Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ameyzing Reds. It's me, Ameya. Thank you so much for coming out late at night. It's, it's tough out here in India. It's tough out there in the world. We've got governments trying to turn autocracy into democracy and pass it off as the same thing. Got shit hitting the fan, people having shitty lives. Today we're going to try and help out, feel a little bit better. We got a very special guest for you guys tonight. Today we welcome onto our fan channel the busiest man in Eccles, the shiniest head of Manchester, a shareholder of Manchester United, and a mentor to me. Please welcome Jay Motty.
Well, that was an amazing intro there. Thank you. Hey, I particularly like the one about my shiny head. Yeah, very good. Can't argue with that.
Hello, Jay. Hello, Jay. Please, thank you for joining us. It's so good to have you here. I've been trying so hard to get you onto the channel. You're here.
Yes, you have.
How do you feel?
You persevered. You stuck with it. You persevered, and fair play to you.
All right. So, guys, Jay, as I said, is a very busy man. He's trying to get the Prime Minister of Manchester to make him the head of the Manchester redevelopment program. So, he's got a lot of stuff to do. So, we're not going to take too much of his time. The reason we are here today is because we're going on a nostalgia trip, and who better to call than Uncle Jay? Yes, he is a bit old. He has watched Manchester United back when they were in green and gold. And I don't mean the one which they made with the Manchester United jersey.
Yes, I was there in the Newton Heath days. Yes, I remember him well. I remember it well.
Right. So basically, there are a lot of Manchester United legends. I have a I don't have as high of a bar as some people do on what to call legends. Basically, if you played a big part in getting us to a Premier League title, you're a legend. But sometimes a lot of the legends fall under the cracks, don't get spoken about enough. So today at Ameyzing Reds, we are going to talk about them. And I got Jay along here because he's been a Manchester United supporter for many years. He's been a season ticket holder. He's watched these players. I want to know more about them. I would like him to teach me a lot more about these players because I never got to see them play. He got to see them play. So we're going to learn a little bit more about who these players are, what made them so great, why are they undervalued. We're going to discuss those topics. But first, I'm going to ask a simple question to Jay. How are you, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Obviously, looking forward to the new season. Excited after the end of the season that we had, and with Michael Carrick in charge, who's a manager that I respect, and I'm glad we've got him. And obviously, we've made a few signings. I don't think we've set the world alight with our signings, but I think they've been good ones. I like the fact we brought in Andre Santos. I'm a big Yuri Tielemans fan, so I'm loving that one. And I like the fact we brought in some younger players as well. Is it Tynan Thompson's come in? I think the club are working on a couple of other deals as well as we speak. So it's been a positive transfer window without being OTT.
Yeah, there's a Colombian lad we signed as well. Now the transfer
Christian
has been
Orozco,
completed.
is it? Sorry, yeah.
Yes, Orozco, yes. So we are making, I would say, going low-key is sometimes the best way to go about it. If you remember the last season that the Scousers won the title, they had a pretty low-key season and they managed to do well. So I think we don't necessarily need to go, guns blazing, overspend on dross and then suffer for it. I think Ineos have proven that they're willing to wait for the right signing to get available. So I'm looking forward to what comes next. The seasons come, like the World Cup came and went by, and we were in the World Cup rush. Now it's over. Now it's club football time. The tribalism is back. So we're going to talk about Manchester United, but this time we're turning the clocks backward, and we're going to talk about old players. So we're going to start off with your favorite player. I know this. He was your favorite player. I think you even have a picture with him. We're going to talk about the governor.
Paul Ince. Yes.
Paul Ince. Yeah. Ince transferred from West Ham to Manchester United, had 206 appearances and 25 goals. Nicknamed the governor, he won a League Cup, FA Cup, 2 Premier Leagues, and a Cup Winners' Cup with Manchester United. He did go to Inter at a time when Ferguson wanted to blood the class of 92 lads, and as first team regulars, and he did have a falling out with Fergie about that. But to to this day, he doesn't get spoken about enough, maybe because of the fact that he joined Liverpool. So, Jay, tell us your memories about this man.
Well, you nailed it there, really. I think Paulins probably doesn't get spoken about enough because of the fact he ended up going to Liverpool after Inter Milan, and that upset a lot of United fans, especially the way he was at the when he was at Anfield. He scored a late equaliser against us in '99, I think, and he went ballistic when he celebrated. So that upset a lot of United fans even more. But he was a fantastic player. He was one of my favourite players. He was my favourite player when I was a kid. He almost never had a bad game for Manchester United. He really did. He was in midfield. First, I think he was with Brian Robson, then with Brian McClare, and then in his last couple of seasons with Roy Keane. And he was a fantastic footballer. He was very, very good on the ball, but also could put a tackle in, could cover a lot of ground, was a proper sort of all-round midfielder. Didn't score loads of goals, but scored some important ones. And yeah, just always gave his all and sort of bossed that midfield. And I really enjoyed it as well when it was him and Roy Keane together towards the end, because you had such a strong midfield that also had a bit about him as well. So it was a shame that he left when he did. I was a bit gutted, but Ferguson was obviously planning long term. And I think Ferguson had got a bit miffed with Ince and his sort of the way he carried himself, the whole governor thing, the whole sort of he was a bit of a cheeky Cockney chappy kind of thing, and I don't think that always rubbed Ferguson up the right way. I think there was a time when Ferguson was looking to sort of move the club forward with some younger players. It's funny though, because I think even though Ferguson sold him to Inter Milan, Ferguson was in two minds about it right up until the point where says in an interview that he was literally in his kitchen with representatives from Inter Milan who were ready to sign. He was ready to sign a deal for him, and Ferguson rang him and said, "Just hang fire a minute. I might want you to stay. I'm not. There might be an opportunity for you to stay." And Ince was like, "Look, they're here. I'm signing this deal," because he wasn't sure about leaving himself. And it was sad when he did leave, but I think anyone who remembers him and watched him will know he was a very, very good player for Manchester United, a very important player as well in getting us that first title after 26 years, that 92-93 season. So deserves a little bit more credit than he got, even though he did break our hearts, not just by leaving, but also ended up at the Scousers.
Um, I had to ask about Ince. Was he the type of player that nowadays you'd call like a Casemiro style player, or was he sort of the Rodri kind? Like, how was he? Like, was he someone who
Well,
would be you'd class as a destroyer, or like was he like the ball fizzing through lines kind of player?
he was someone who was a bit more sort of an all-rounder than maybe someone like a Casemiro. Casemiro's got a little bit of everything, but Casemiro usually sits in front of the defence. And I think one of the issues Ferguson had with Ince towards the end was he wanted Ince to just sort of be a bit more of a defensive midfielder, where Ince saw himself more of a box-to-box player. So I think if you're going to compare him to a modern player, I think trying to think, maybe a Declan Rice type would be more accurate. I know that's obviously not a United player, but he wasn't as attack minded as Bruno Fernandes. He wasn't as defense minded as a Casemiro. He was, or even a Mainu. He's a little bit more of an all rounder. Used to get around the pitch quite a lot. Could carry the ball quite well. Could pick out a pass and was very good at tackling. So he had a little bit of everything. And I think if I'm looking at him as a modern player, someone like a Rice or an Elliot Anderson is probably the closest you've got to a Paulins type of player. But for many years he did very well at Manchester United. He could also slot in at right back if he needed to at times early on in his United career. But it was a massive blow to me. I was 15 when he left, and I was heartbroken because I loved him.
I see. I see. Well, such as life, such as football. Ideally, if you've played for Manchester United, don't play for the Scousers. And he did. And now I guess now we just kind of hush it up and try and pretend like, he wasn't a great player. But he was. And we gave him his flowers today. Thank you, Jay. Moving on, we will move on to the next one. This one is the Russian rocket himself, Andrei Kanchelskis, transferred from Shakhtar. The winger, I guess technically a midfielder, but he was. Let's have it right. He was kind of like a mid winger. He played at United for 4 years. Cup Winners' Cup, League Cup, two Premier Leagues, and an FA Cup. 123 appearances, 28 goals. Eventually fell out with Fergie before going to Everton. I'm sensing a bit of a theme here as to why these players leave.
I think Kanchelskis was a weird one because I don't even think he necessarily fell out with Fergie. I think he just wanted to leave. And I think there was some sort of intrigue as to the nature of why he wanted to leave because I think he not long ago signed a new deal, but there was rumours that he had, I wouldn't say dodgy, I think that's a bit of a stretch, but agents who wanted to make the most money out of him as possible, and he was on board with it. So getting a move to Everton where he got a big sign-on fee helps him make more money, and I think that was a driving factor for him, was just making more money than what he was on at United, or certainly by getting a transfer from United. It helped him get money and get his agents money. There was rumours that he had ties to the Russian mafia, but I'm not going to get into all that. So it was a massive shock when he left because you can understand it with Ince because he sort of fell out with Fergie a little bit, and plus Fergie was looking at these younger midfielders coming through. But Kanchelskis has just had a very good season. I think he scored 17 Premier League goals in the season before he left. So he was prolific. And when you look at wingers in the 90s, that like when you look at a winger now, you look at someone like a Saka or a Cunha or a Mo Salah, where they're not really wingers getting down the wing, running in and crossing it. The wingers who cut inside and get shots off and stuff like that. Kanchelskis was a winger who could cut inside and get a shot off, but more or less was up and down that wing, crossing balls in. So it wasn't like it is now. So you might get more wingers who get double figures. Back in the day, you didn't get that as often. And Kanchelskis was someone who was very good at scoring goals and creating goals as well. And he was an absolute equal in the Russian Rocket. He used to get down that wing, very quick, very strong, and he'd whack that ball in like 100 mile an hour and almost dare the strikers to get on the end of it, because if you got on the end of it, it was going to leave your head or your foot at a proper pace as well. Very, very effective player. And when he left, it was a bit of a shock and a massive blow as well, because he was such a good player. He was one of the best in the league. I think he went to Everton and scored 17 league goals in his first season there. Still had a lot to offer. But like I said, there was some questions about why he wanted to leave, the manner of his departure. It felt like it was very much money orientated, and it was a bit of a shock. But we had some kid called David Beckham waiting in the wings, and he didn't do too badly.
Yeah. All right. Married a pop star, lived the dream, played
Yeah.
for endless clubs, won the treble. Standard stuff.
Yeah.
Um, could you contrast how Kanchelskis was as a winger as opposed to Beckham, considering you've
Yeah.
seen both of them
But it's
play?
a good question, that. Beckham had the ability to cross from deep. So Beckham could cross from just inside the opposition half. He could do it almost diagonal cross if he needed to. He wasn't someone who I'd always associate with getting past the man. A lot of the time, it'd be Gary Neville on the overlap, Beckham giving it a little 1-2 with him. Beckham was capable of getting past players, but that wasn't necessarily his skill set. His skill set was his amazing crossing ability. So he just needed a bit of space. He didn't necessarily need to sort of run at a defender and get to the byline. Beckham could cross from deep. Kanchelskis was slightly different in the sense that Kanchelskis would always try and get a sort of as far into the opposition half as he could before he'd whip one in. Sometimes he could obviously cut in as well and was able to sort of drive shots in. Got a hat-trick against Manchester City in the derby at Old Trafford. Was very effective at it. But I think there was a difference there in the sort of the style. Beckham, much more capable of spraying those long passes. Could obviously play in centre midfield as well, which he did sometimes. Kanchelskis, a more traditional winger. Get down that line, chalk on your boots, as we used to say. Beat your fullback and whip it in. And that's what he did.
Interesting. All right, then we will move on to the next one. This one is, I think, at least my favorite to talk about, because I think these guys are underrated as hell. It's Brucey and Pallister.
Right.
So both of them transferred. One Bruce from Norwich and Pallister from Borough. 600 appearances between the two of them. 36 and 12 goals respectively. Keep in mind, Bruce is a centre back and 36 goals. Pally was a British record signing for Sir Alex. Brucey scored the 2 goals that won United the first league in 26 years. Fergie phased both of them out. Bruce left on a free, and Pally went back to Borough after being replaced by Yapstam. Go.
Just a phenomenal centre-back pairing. Bit of everything between them. Bruce is such a unique player, Steve Bruce. Wasn't the quickest. Didn't look like a footballer. Didn't even have legs like a footballer, but could read the game superbly. Didn't need to be the quickest because of the way he read the game. And because he read the game so well, he was very effective in the opposition box as well with his headers. Like you mentioned there, the 2 goals against Sheffield Wednesday late on in that game more or less sealed the title for Manchester United. It wasn't confirmed that day, but we needed that win and we got it thanks to those 2 goals from Steve Bruce. Scored 9 goals in a season once as a centre-back. How many centre-backs do you know have done that? And obviously captained Manchester United to our first 2 Premier League wins. So very good footballer, good on the ball, could read the game well, could fearless in the tackling with his head as well. Hence the reason he ended up with a nose that looked like it was, been battered because he put his head in anything. Pallister, a different type of player. I think Gary Pallister is one of the most underrated centre backs in Premier League history. I think he's in the conversation for being one of the, if not the best Premier League centre back. I think he's right up there with the Jaap Stams, the Rio Ferdinands, the Nemanja Vidics, the Virgil van Dijks, John Terry, whoever you want to name as one of the best centre backs in Premier League. Gary Pallister
Hang on. I have to stop you there. Did you just mention John Terry as one of the best?
I mentioned him because of the titles he won, not because I think he was as good as the other players.
We don't do that here. We don't recognize racist.
Yeah,
bombs.
I know there's some Chelsea fans that argue he is, but Gary Pallister was better than him anyway. Gary Pallister, I think he played something like 82 games out of 84 in the first 2 Premier League seasons. So I think he missed 2 games in 2 seasons. There used to be more games, obviously, then. So just a phenomenal player. Could time and tackle superbly. I think he went a whole season without a booking once as well for a defender. That was just unreal. And just absolutely could do everything you'd want from a centre-back. Could head it, could tackle, good on the ball. Was deceptively quick. He had a style that sort of didn't make him look quick the way he ran. He almost looked like he was jogging, but he could cover great distances. So, yeah, just an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender. And those 2 perfectly complemented each other, just in a way that Vidic and Rio did, where you've got someone who's a little bit better on the ball, someone who dives in. There was the same with Bruce and Pallister.
I was going to say, it almost looked like Fergie was tinkering around with that Bruce and Pallister, and he tweaked it to make it like Johnson and Stam, and then finally got it down to the perfect balance with Rio and Vidic. Wouldn't you say that the case?
Yeah, I think you're always looking for that as a manager. I think most decent centre-back partnerships, whether that's at United or anywhere else, will have 2 types of centre-back. You'll have one who's more sort of better on the ball, can carry the ball out of defence, has a little bit more about him in that sense. You'll have someone who flies in a little bit more, he's a bit more sort of rough and ready, a more physical type of centre-back. And I think those always complement each other. And you mentioned there, whether it's Bruce or Pallister, Stam and Jonsson, Rio and Vidic, it's what most managers are looking for. It's what Fergie was always trying to create. And I think he did it very well with Bruce and Pallister. That was probably his first really successful centre-back pairing. Obviously, he had good centre-backs when he arrived in Paul McGrath. And I think Kevin Moran was still there as well. But those players, for various reasons, were coming towards the end of their time at United. And Bruce and Pallister were just ideal. And for I think it's probably about 5 or 6 seasons, just absolutely smashed it.
Touching on that, I had a question. It's if I'm not wrong, Bruce never had an England cap, right?
That's true. Yeah, as a joke, it's a joke that he's better than probably 90% of the defenders we've seen playing for England. Just won the lot at Manchester United and never got a solitary cap for England. And when you see some of the players that have had caps for England, multiple caps on occasion, it's an absolute joke and a travesty that someone like Steve Bruce, who could score goals, read the game well, won numerous titles, never got 1 cap for England. Now, to be fair, England did have some very good centre-backs. You have to remember as well, when Bruce was playing, it isn't like it is now where you've got countless England games every season. There wasn't as many. There was still enough for him to get a cap, but there wasn't as many. But you had players like Des Walker, who's very good. Obviously, got to World Cup semi-final, was a highly regarded centre-back. Tony Adams, Terry Butcher was there. There was a lot of Gary Pallister, of course, his teammate at United. There was a lot of good centre-backs, but he should have had more. He should have had at least 1. It's a joke that he didn't. And the irony is, I think Jack Charlton approached him to play for Ireland because he had Irish heritage. But Steve Bruce said no, because back in those days, you had the 3 foreigner rule for English clubs in the Champions League. So if you played for a foreign country, you were classed as a foreigner And Bruce said no because he thought that could hinder Manchester United. And that shows you the measure of the man, that he was willing to put his international ambitions to one side to do what's best for Manchester United.
Yeah, this is Jack Charlton, the brother of Bobby, Sir Bobby, right?
Yeah, Jack Charlton managed Ireland from like 19, I don't know, I think probably say 1986 to 1996 or something like that. I'm not sure on the dates, but he was the Irish manager for about a decade, and he was very successful. Got them to, I think, to a World Cup quarter final, which is the best they've ever done. So it was very successful. But what Jack Charlton used to do was he'd look at English players pretty much who had Irish heritage. So yes, you'd have players like Roy Keane and Paul McGrath who were, completely Irish, but you'd get players like John Aldridge or I'm trying to think who else was there, Phil Barb or Jason McAteer, players that had Irish sort of grandparents, and try and get them into the Irish team. And it was successful. It worked very well, and Ireland had probably its most successful period under Jack Charlton.
I see. Um, just one last thing before I leave. Not leave, sorry, my bad. Before we move on, I meant to say, is there a particular reason why Bruce and Pallister, specifically Pallister, who was a British record signing, don't get the recognition they deserve nowadays? Like like United fans have to like fight tooth and nail to put Vidic, Rio, and Stam in there, and just not like avoid the noise of the Van Dykes and the Adams and stuff like that. But is there a particular reason why these two, who have won the inaugural Premier League and have been so successful doing that, not get the recognition? I mean, Gary Pallister has the same amount of Premier Leagues as Virgil van Dijk.
I think a lot of it is just the fact they're early Premier League. So they're the back end of the Premier League. And I think because you're talking over 30 years now, 30 years ago. So I think that hinders them a little bit, because you've got pundits and journalists and fans who never saw them play. So I think they get dismissed a little bit. That I think the lack of a Champions League success sometimes skews people's thinking, because they don't realise or they forget that there's this 3 foreigner rule which hurt Manchester United, and it only lasted for a few years and they got rid of it. But it was a massive hindrance to Manchester United at that time, because you had players like Dennis Irwin, Roy Keane, Brian McClare, all classed as foreign. Doesn't matter if you look at someone like Dennis Irwin. I think he'd been in England since he was about 17, 18, was classed as foreign. Ryan Giggs, I think, played for Wales, even though he grew up in Swinton. So it hurt Manchester United. Then you had obviously Cantona and Kanchelskis and Schmeichel and all the other players as well. So it was a massive hindrance to Manchester United. So I think that the combination of those two things, early Premier League and the fact that we didn't have a successful Champions League campaign, makes people sort of dismiss their achievements or dismiss how good they were. But let's not kid ourselves. These were phenomenal players, and they should always be in a conversation for the best ever.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We will now move on to our last legend of the day. This one's a bit touch and go on the legend part, but cult hero nonetheless. Number 4, Gabby Heinze.
Yeah, no, Gabriel Heinze. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, transferred from PSG, played at United for 3 seasons, and was Player of the Year in his first season. Won the Samad Busby Player of the Year in his first season. Won Premier League, 52 appearances, 1 goal. Got the fans to chant Argentina for him. Cult hero. Fell out with Fergie, no shock. But said he wanted to go to Liverpool, but went to Madrid again instead. Talk about falling upwards.
Yeah, it's a shame with Heinze. He's probably the most controversial one on here. I think a lot of United fans fell out with him, myself included, because he wanted to go to Liverpool, and he made that clear. And he was a fan favourite. He was a cult hero. Like you said, he won Player of the Year, I think, in 2005. And we loved him, the style he brought to the team. Very aggressive, threw himself into tackles, good on the ball. Like you said, had us all chanting Argentina. But he made it clear that he was willing to go to Liverpool, and fans hated that. You cannot do that as a Manchester United player, almost spit your dummy out because you're not getting him to Liverpool. And Fergie made it clear he was never going to sell him to Liverpool. He would have let him rot in the reserves rather than sell him to Liverpool. And he got a better deal anyway, ended up going to Real Madrid. But that tainted him in the eyes of Manchester United fans. And I think that tainted is still the case. I know he's at Arsenal now, I think, as part of their backroom staff. But even more so than Paul Ince, I think Manchester United fans don't have a lot of time for Gabriel Heinz. And also, as well, he was succeeded by a player that was much better than him. As good as Heinz was, Patrice Evra came in and just exceeded everything that Heinz achieved. So whilst Heinz was a good player and at the time was a cult hero, he ruined it for himself with that sort of desire to play for Liverpool or go to Liverpool, and that's always going to be probably what he's remembered for most.
Speaking about technical ability, would you liken Lisandro Martinez to him, considering the fact both Argentinian, both left-footed, both play centre back and can slot in at left back?
Yeah, maybe. I think Heinz is probably a little bit more of a left back than Martinez is, but it's not the most ridiculous analogy. I think, to be fair, they have similar traits. I think Martinez is a lot better on the ball. I think Martinez is phenomenal on the ball, especially in tight areas where he's under pressure. Heinz was a little bit more gung ho, but was a very sort of passionate player, and fans love that. To see passionate, determined, dogged players who get stuck in, flying to tackles. Had injury issues as well, which sort of hurt him a little bit. But the sort of the overriding, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but come back to it, just the overriding memory of Gabriel Heinz as a player that was a cult hero, as you said, who just ruined his reputation with us.
I see. Now, speaking of ruined reputations, you're in the know, like the ITK, about how Manchester is. Like, is there like a lot of buzz around the news that Lisandro Martinez got injured again while on international duty just before he's supposed to come back, and there's like talks about him leaving. Obviously, not very reliable, but there were talks that he might go to Atletico, and after that, holding up that banner with the Falklands thing is like, is the mood around Manchester like something like we should just get rid?
I don't think the banner is as deep as some people made out. There's people be upset about it, but I think people move on from it very quickly. I think there was a lot of anger at the time because people were annoyed England had lost, and then you see that, and people thought it was disrespectful. So there was, people complaining and ready to get rid of him. I understand that, even though I don't agree with it. I don't think we should be getting rid of him because of a banner. The injury is much more sort of serious, if you will, in the mindset of people. I think for most of the fans I've spoken to, it feels as though most fans would still want to keep him. However, there's a massive concern there. This is a player that's constantly injured. He's yet to really play a full season for Manchester United. He's been here a little while now. He's been here since obviously Eric Ten Hag's first season. You cannot rely on someone who's constantly injured. You cannot build anything on that defense if you've got two defenders in De Ligt and Martinez who are constantly injured. So I think Martinez, don't know the nature of injury, he needs to show us something this season. Otherwise, I think it'll be his last.
I'm gonna play Red Devil's advocate for a second. I don't think Delict is that injury prone. He played every minute of every available minute. He was fit when last season, and he just got a very, I guess, career threatening back injury. The season before, I think he missed like 3-4 games due to some hamstring pull he had against Liverpool. Other than that, he played more or less every time he was fit. So I think, Delict's fitness issues kind of have been over-egged, in my opinion, because of the fact that he just disappeared off the face of the earth after that back injury.
It's not just at United though, is it? Because if you look at what happened with Bayern Munich, there was an injury issue there. Remember the myth that Eric Dyer was getting in the team ahead of him? He wasn't. The reason that Eric Dyer got into that team was because De Ligt got injured, and then when he came back, he got injured again. So then they had to be cautious with him because they didn't want to throw him in too soon because he had this problem. And also the issue you spoke about there, it's the back. Back injuries can be career threatening. So this is why people are worried, because you've got a player who's been at United for 2 seasons in Matthijs de Ligt, and he's missed half of one of those seasons with a serious injury. And it's an injury that can scupper your sort of your career. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully he comes back, because when he plays, he's a fantastic player. But it is a worry with De Ligt, the fact that you've got this injury since November the 30th. Let's not forget as well, we were told this wasn't that serious. We were told in November that he was going to be back within weeks. It's been 7 months and he's still not fit. In fact, it's been 8 months. 8 months out. That's a season's worth of football. So that's the concern that people have with Matthijs de Ligt. And one of the reasons that Manchester United were able to get him from Bayern Munich wasn't because of his ability. Bayern Munich fans were gutted to see him go. It's because there was a few question marks about his fitness. So I think it is a bit of an issue there where people are looking at it going, what's going on with Matthijs de Ligt? And also, if we're just going to be logical about it, there's a good chance that neither Martinez or de Ligt are fit for the first few months of the season. So then what are you going to do? You're going to have to start maybe Aiden Heaven and Maguire or Yoro. And then when de Ligt and Martinez come back, are you going to say, right, we're going to change it again? That's the issue that I think a lot of people have.
Okay, fair enough. All right then. We shall see. Hopefully he comes back because we all love
Fingers
Matty de
crossed.
Ligt. So yeah,
Yeah,
fingers
we do.
crossed. Right. So we are done with our main topic. I'm just going to run off a few questions. Thank you guys who have been in the comments. Thank you guys who have been watching. This means a lot. I'm a young channel, still growing. I thank Jay for his time, and I thank everyone who's been here supporting me. It means a lot. Uh, I'll run through some of the comments. MKC underscore 80 says, fantastic skin for such an old man. You gotta teach me, man. If you look at me, I'm looking like a mess.
Never.
Advai Kane says, Advai Kane says, just a question for both. You can tackle it later. What's your best United 11 Premier League era? I always find it tough to answer this myself, but would love to hear your thoughts. Since we're on the topic of old stuff, Jay, um, how about you give your best United 11 from your era? No, I mean this is still your era. You're still
Yeah, no,
44
it's
years
fine. I can
young,
give you a
but
Premier
the
League United
90s.
11.
How about
Just
you
stick
take
to
the
the
prime
90s.
Barclays? Yeah, you talk about the
Just the
prime
90s.
Barclays.
Okay, if
Yeah,
it's just the 90s, then obviously Schmeichel. The best goalkeeper I've seen is Van der Sar, but he didn't play United in the 90s. Back four, you'd have Irwin, I'd have Pallister, I'd have Stam, and then at right back, I'd have Gary Neville. In midfield, if we're going to go 90s, we'll go 4-4-2. So in midfield, I'll
yes,
go
get
with
in.
I'll go with Keane and Ince just because Brian Robson, I think by the time the Premier League came around, he wasn't the player he had been. Then on the right, I'll go with Beckham. On the left, I'll go with Ryan Giggs. And my two centre forwards, I'll go with Eric Cantona and I'll go with Andy Cole.
Andy Cole over Dwight York.
Yes, love Andy Cole, one of my favourite ever players.
All right, Goal King Cole goes in. Now, for me, I'll take the sort of era that I grew up in, or as I like to call it, the Dross era, because I started watching United about just when we won our last Premier League. Someone could have told me by then, like if someone would have told me, I probably would have thought about twice before supporting United. Still would have gone for United, but I would have thought a little bit before doing it. For me, I'd say goalkeeper has to be De Gea. He was the only goalkeeper like stalwart up for like 10 years. I would say right back, best one that we've had so far. I would say Tony Valencia.
Yep.
Um, Centre back partnership. Uh, I think I think by the time I started watching, Rio and Vidic had kind of started fading away. So I'm going to go with Martinez and Varane. Part of me wanted to go for Bai and Rojo because that was like hot sauce on Tabasco. But realistically, Varane and Licha were fucking mint when they played together that time. Left back, I think Luke Shaw, stalwart, seems to be just absorbing the talent of whichever left back we get in to replace him and then just plays well. I'm gonna go with a 4-2-3-1 because that's traditional. That's what we've played the most in my time. So center back, midfield. I'm gonna go with Carrick because he did play quite a bit of the years that I saw as the holding midfielder. And next to him, I think I will put. I think we're gonna go defensive, and we're gonna put Casemiro next to him. Up top, in the 10, there's only one man, El Magnifico, Bruno Fernandes. Wingers, I will say, now for the left wing, I think I'll go with Marcus Rashford. The fan base currently is not one of the favorites of the fan base, but I love Marcus Rashford to death. When he's smiling, I smile. I love Marcus, and you know, still one of the top scorers of this club. Scored what 126 goals for the club. Great servant. Has to, I think, left wing. In my opinion, best post Ferguson academy graduate, hands down, argue with the wall. On the right wing, this is going to be tough because we've just been struggling with right wingers for a while. I think I'm gonna go with Mason Greenwood, or you know what? Scratch that. I think we'll go with Brian Mbumo,
Okay,
and just from a ethics point of view, and I think
fair
leading up
enough.
top, I think Waza should be up top. I think even though he was like towards the end of his career, I think he was absolutely he still could play. I mean, I've seen some clips of the World Cup, and he still looks like he's younger than Ronaldo. He can still play. We need a second striker. Come on, Waza, just come on down. Put on your
Why
shoes.
not?
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next question. Melvin Dan says, "Hi Jay, full time Devils. Always going to be my favorite Man United fan channel. Love everyone over there. Great job, guys. My favorite channel as well. Nobody does it like Stretretford Paddock." CM Talks MUFC says, "Nice to see Jay. Thought he'd be backing up Joe behind Asda tonight. Pause. But yeah, why
Joe can
why
handle
why
himself.
aren't
He
you
don't need
there?
my help. He'll be all right.
I need to get Joe down here to defend himself about these Asda comments." CM Talks MUFC says, "Jay, you buzzing to see JJ Gabriel on Friday? Is he confirmed to be
I
playing?"
don't know if he's confirmed, but if he is playing, yeah, I look forward to seeing him. Seeing him a little bit in the academy. Always an exciting player. I'm sure you've all seen the clips as well of the goals he scored. And I think this season, although he's still obviously very young, and we have got to sort of be cautious with him, I think we'll expect him to see some minutes in the first team. I'm looking forward to it, man. He's one of the most spoken about youngsters I think I've ever seen. And I think the hype is real. I think there's a real talent, a genuine world class talent potentially there. So yeah, can't wait to see him.
I want to see. I do like JJ Gabriel, and I feel like his time will come. I want to see Shea Lacey shine. Something about a Scouser playing for United and rejecting Liverpool just makes me feel good about myself. Fuck them, and I just want to see him like bang one in top bins from outside of the box, like he almost did twice in the last season. I think he will get
Yeah,
one of those goals, and that's going to be like goal of the season kind of shit.
why not? Why not?
Melvin Dan says, "Jay, who do you think would be a realistic perfect number six to get for us in the current market?"
This is the problem. There's not many sixes out there. There's a lot of eights. I think you look at someone like an Alex Scott. I know he can play in a six, but he's probably more of an eight. Um, we have been linked sort of a little bit with Tchouaméni, but it looks like he's going to stay in Madrid. You could argue Camavinga potentially, but again, it looks like he's going to stay. If one of those two would be available, that'd be class. But I have my doubts. So I think United are probably going to end up pursuing someone like an Alex Scott, who's more of an eight but can play in a six. But we'll have to wait and see because the market at the minute is just insane. The fees being bandied about. I think United have done well to get Tielemans and Santos, both of them in for the same price as Mateus Fernandez. To be
For the
honest with you,
price of one Fernandez, yeah, for the price
yeah,
of one twice relegated player, you get two players, one with a very high ceiling, good potential, and one Premier League proven player. You show me another club that has done that kind of financial planning instead of just spilling it all off on players with potential and then just overpaying like crazy.
yeah,
So yeah,
no, I agree.
I agree with you, but here's a rogue shout. What about Jimmy Garner? Because if you're going to be spending on Alex Scott, I would go for Jimmy Garner because he most likely will.
Yeah,
I hope he'd be cheaper, and he's almost the same thing, but he's much more Premier League proven than Alex Scott is.
I think it's just the fact he signed a new deal last season. I think that's the problem. He's sort of committed himself to Everton. So he's gettable, but you'd have to pay a lot of money for him because he's just signed a new deal. And I think that'd be a problem. I really do. I think that's the sticking point. And you got to remember, he was at United. He wasn't given the opportunity. He went to Everton, was welcomed there, has done well there, has shone there. I like Jimmy Garner. I think he's a fantastic footballer, but I think it's more likely that he's going to stay at Everton, unfortunately, because I'd have him. I'd have him.
Yeah. Come home, Jimmy, please come home. I miss you. Next question. Great discussion, guys. Quite a lot of perspective door dance, says Shubham Bhalerao. Shubham, I think you messed the DNF. But yeah, he also says, because we are talking about technical ability, is Licha a better CDM than a centre back? Not really. I think he doesn't have the legs to play CDM. He's been
Yeah,
proven
I
many
agree. I
times.
think he's
All his
better as a
coaches
centre
play him
back.
at centre back.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Shubham also says, losing Licha because of injuries feels so unfair because the quality he brings. I understand, but
Agree.
the quality needs to be on the pitch.
Yeah,
And
no, that's
it's the
fair.
same thing with players like Eric Bailly, even Phil Jones to a certain degree. Your talent means nothing if you can't show it on the pitch. Injuries, unfortunately, are a part of the game, and some players are just injury prone, and because of that, it can lead to their careers being shortened. It's just the sad reality of the game.
Yep.
Uh, Unfortunate way the way our defense line has been facing some or the other problems since ages. Yeah, we played I think a full season without a left back. Then our center backs get injured. Somehow Diego Dalo has always been there as right back or left back. He's somehow never injured, touch wood. But yeah, that's kind of a big deal. S- Fitness of defense. We've always had good defenders, but fitness has been a problem. Uh, Shivam says again, fingers crossed for some great Paddock content too. Yes, fingers crossed. Hopefully, there's Amazing Reds, a collab as well in there somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Watch the space.
Shubham also says we need Jay's optimism every time we have Joe on screen. Come on,
Yeah, I think Joe's
that's
quite
harsh on.
optimistic. To be fair, I think we're all optimistic on this channel. There's probably a little bit more realism with some of the lads than there is from me at times, or Adam McCullough for that matter. But I think there's always optimism, especially going into this season. I think we're all optimistic. We can see that we've made some decent signings. We've got a good squad, and we've got confidence in Michael Carrick. I think we just need to maybe bring in one or two more, and then we can have a real positive campaign.
Excellent. I'll just parting thoughts, Jay. How has your experience been on Amazing Reds?
Loved it. Loved having a bit of nostalgia. Talking about my favourite era. That 93, 94 Manchester United team is my favourite ever team. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's my favourite ever team. So it's good to talk about quite a few players from that team. And just looking, back in a different sort of era of Premier League football as well. And some players that maybe get a little bit forgotten. So I appreciate you having me on the channel, and I appreciate you asking me about those players that probably don't get enough attention and credit as they deserve, and some great questions as well in the chat as well. So I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
The 93, 94 is the green and gold one, right?
Yeah,
The one with the
I
green
think
and
it
gold
came in
kit. Yeah.
90. I think it was like 92 to 93 and 93 to 94. Because I think this is the days where we used to have multiple seasons out of one kit. Imagine that.
Oh, no money being made. What? How will the
Yep,
capitalist machine be fed?
exactly. They got rid of that idea pretty sharpish when they realised that people would buy one kit every season.
And that the bitch of it. Anyway, Jay, thank you so much. I do hope you do come back. We make this a regular thing,
I
these
will do.
nostalgia trips. I love listening to
Yep.
you. I listen to you all day anyway, but like having you interact with me, it's a dream come true. Last 5 years of my life, I've been just consuming Paddock content all day, every day, and this is like this is a hero talking to me. This is like Paulins and the photo you have with Paulins. This is my Paulins moment.
What a compliment. Thank you for having me on, bro. And I look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Yes, thank you, Jay. Thank you for everyone who was up late watching this. I would thank you all. It's like 11:45 here. People have jobs to get to, so stuck around. As few whoever came, please thank you so much. I love you all. This has been Amazing Reds. I've been Ameya. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Free Palestine and BJP.